On April 20, 1989, an accident happened involving two vehicles. One was driven by an off-duty officer, Carol Heights, and the other was a mysterious blonde lady. This happened in Montana, in Highway 200, near Circle. The witness, Peggy, was in a different vehicle, and she saw the whole thing unfold. Leading up to the accident, the car driven by the mysterious woman was swerving recklessly into the oncoming traffic. In fact, she almost hits Peggy's car, but thankfully, with her quick reaction, she managed to steer away and avoid the head-on collision. Unfortunately, right behind her was Carol, and she got the short end of the stick. Peggy pulled over to check up on them, but the mysterious woman just suddenly got out of her car, then proceeded to walk away. She didn't look injured and was walking normally. She wasn't limping nor shown any signs of distress. Here when things got very strange. As soon as she reached the other side of the road, she turned around and stared at the accident scene with a blank face. She stood there as if nothing significant just happened. She did this for a good period. Then she walked into this large field adjacent to the road. From there, she was never seen again. Peggy witnessed all of this, but she didn't chase her down. Her main priority was to check up on Carol, and luckily, she didn't suffer anything serious. Police were called in the scene. They investigated the car and ran the plate. It belonged to Patricia Meehan, a 38-year-old woman. The first assumption was that the woman was likely driving under the influence. The fact that she was swerving recklessly and driving into the oncoming traffic are two solid indications. However, there were no alcohols found inside the car, not even a smell of it either. Peggy let the authorities know that the woman went to the field right after the accident, and so they started searching the surrounding area. They discovered foot tracks which they believed from Patricia. They followed the tracks hoping to find her at the end, but strangely, the trail just suddenly disappeared. There was no sight of her nearby. After hearing the news, her family flew to Montana to help with the search effort. They displayed over 2,000 flyers in hopes somebody have any clues about her whereabouts. Dogs and helicopter were brought in to search the field to check if Patricia was hiding, but they didn't find anything, just her foot tracks. Her family mentioned that before the incident, Patricia had become distant and withdrawn. They felt like she was a whole different person. Patricia was originally from Pittsburgh. She moved to Oklahoma to attend college, then later moved to Montana to work at a ranch. She lived in the Bozeman area, that's 400 miles away from where the accident happened. Patricia's landlord came forward and told authorities he saw her the morning of the day she went missing. He noted that she was acting a bit weird. Her family also mentioned that she had been visiting a psychologist. She was scheduled to have another visit on April 21st, just the following day. However, the clinic isn't located anywhere near Circle, where the accident happened, so it's unlikely she was heading to her psychologist. With further investigation, Patricia's father stated that her daughter spoke to him the day before she went missing. She mentioned that she was under a lot of stress and wanted to visit them in Pittsburgh. There were several theories in the case. One of them is that she's hiding from the authorities. Since she got involved in a car accident, she didn't want to be held responsible and face the consequences. But the problem with this is that even though she caused the accident, it seems like a poor excuse to completely go missing. It wasn't like she killed somebody or committed a serious crime that would put her behind bars. Another theory was that she suffered a head injury from the crash, which caused her to lose all memories of herself. However, based on the report of the witness, Peggy, Patricia was able to walk out of the car without distress and even stared at the accident scene. This doesn't seem like a person would do if they suffered from a head injury. But some suggested that she has amnesia way before the accident happened. The fact that she was swerving recklessly could indicate that she was not herself. Her family mentioned that weeks prior to this, she became quite emotional and would occasionally cry. The reason being was unclear, but they suspected that she wasn't in the greatest position mentally. The lack of clues could suggest that she possibly hitchhiked her way out, which begged the question, if a driver picked her up, that person would have seen the missing posters around the area, and any normal person would tip the police to provide this information. Since this wasn't the case, it could be possible that Patricia might have hitchhiked with a person with bad intent. Since she was overwhelmed with stress, it was suggested that she disappeared to start a new life. But her family didn't believe this. They don't think Patricia was the type of person who would just leave everything behind. Based on the conversation with her father, we can conclude that she's heading to Pittsburgh to see them. Bozeman to Pittsburgh is heading east, and Highway 200 near Circle was along the way. But the big question is, what happened to her while she was driving? Why was she recklessly driving into the oncoming traffic? She was alone in the vehicle, and there were no signs of alcohol. On May 4th, just 2 weeks after her disappearance, the police received a tip that a woman that resembled Patricia was spotted in a diner. The waitress who reported this said that a woman was alone on a table and ordered just a glass of water, then immediately left. A couple of days later, many more sightings took place. Majority of them came from various diners in South Dakota. But one strange event was in May 19, about 1 month after her disappearance. This time, it took place in a diner in Bozeman, around where Patricia lived. The waitress stated that the woman seemed to be in a rush and demanded to be seated and served quickly. She also noticed that the woman was talking to herself and was completely spaced out. She stayed at the table for an hour. When the waitress went to check up on her and asked if she's okay, the woman stood up, stared at her, then left the restaurant. There were other sightings as well. On May 30, a truck driver noticed a woman that resembled Patricia walking in the Interstate 90. He offered her a ride, but she refused. Another one was a year later in August 1990. A woman was arrested in Idaho for littering. The woman almost identical to Patricia, and the police were confident that she was the missing person. They ran a fingerprint just to make sure, and unfortunately, it wasn't her. To this date, Patricia hasn't made an attempt to contact her family and still remains missing.